Welcome back. So we have come to the conclusion of the first quarter of 2023, and we like to do just a little market update of where things have progressed and on a quarter-by-quarter basis. And so that's what we're going to kind of key in today. The financial markets and real estate markets are tough to gauge and are turbulent right now. And so kind of want to walk through some of the things that are moving the market and strategies around how you can navigate this to the best of your ability. So, one of the things that happened over the last 90 days really is in the financial sector, things that we can't control. So the biggest one being some bank issues, and what does that mean for you, and what does that mean for rates going forward? Brian, we've seen the ticking up or ticking down of rates, kind of channeling in that 5.5% to 7% range for the last, 4 or 5 months. What's causing, which is now kind of ticked downwards? What's causing this?
So a couple things you hit on there. So first of all, we've seen the Fed raise rates. They're trying to get inflation under control. That's first thing, number one. So through that, over the last year, you saw this drastic uptick in bond rates, and then into the mortgage rate sector, which is kind of where we're focused. So they've done that. They've tried to get that under control. You're starting to see the data come in that's showing the slowing down of inflation. Now, through this raising of rates as fast as they did, we'll hit on thing number 2 you mentioned, that kind of put the banks in kind of a tizzy. It kind of made them a little bit weaker based on their lending rates and what their borrowing rates are from that standpoint. So you've seen some issues. I will say that all the issues you've seen so far have been with banks that have had kind of interesting clientele, interesting lending. Like you've seen banks that focus more on tech sector, focus on the cryptocurrency, things like that. Those are the ones that have kind of been put out there and have been, let's just call it what it is. They failed. But you're probably going to see going forward some more of this work through the system.
Sure.
So as we're doing this, the way I see it is we're going to kind of sputter along. Like you said, I think channeling is a good word for what's going on right now. We've kind of flattened out. We've gotten to that point where we've plateaued, and I think where we're at right now is probably what you're going to see for the next little bit.
Yeah, you mentioned the couple of banks that have failed, and that there's probably some more that are gonna fall into that realm. I was listening to Warren Buffett, and he has a pretty good handle on the macro or the overall economy, you watch his money, and you watch his mindset. And he has pulled a lot of his money out of the banking sector completely, just because. And he thinks that there's going to be more that fail, but not really to the extent of he said the depositors aren't going to be really hurt. It's really going to be the investors in those banks that are going to get hurt versus your actual deposits into them. But those are things that affect the rates, and those are things that affect us, and they're uncontrollable. It's a matter of how we navigate those changes. Also want to kind of key in, we've talked about this on other market updates. One of the things that really is affecting our market and the ability to sell homes to consumers is housing affordability. Mm-hmm. And housing affordability over the last 18 months has really been hurt. And it's been hurt for various reasons. It got, the ability for the average person to buy a home or to afford a home has decreased for several reasons. Early on in 2021, when we saw just mass appreciation, it was the affordability rate was affected by the rise in price, the rise in the price of real estate. And then in October, September of 2022, when rates started to creep up, and not really creep up, jump up substantially, it was the rising price and the rates. Well, now we're in a situation where, and we'll talk about this in a minute, prices have kind of leveled off, and really housing affordability is kind of at that crux level that really an up or down movement in the mortgage rates is really going to affect buyers. And it's going to affect the affordability of them to either move up or get their first house because pricing of the homes, wage increases have not really met out. So the interest rates are a big factor right now in housing affordability.
Yeah, I mean, think of it, economics 101, supply and demand. You have your supply curve, you have your demand curve, okay? So as supply went down and we have an inventory shortage, demand didn't exactly increase, but the supply went down enough to where prices came way up.
Right.
So this whole thing is a cycle as well. So we're kind of coming out of the appreciation cycle, getting into the demand destruction cycle. So you've heard the Fed talk about this. In order to get inflation tamed, we have to have demand destruction.
That is a big word, demand destruction.
Yeah. So think of it this way. We have to make houses unaffordable in order to destroy the demand aspect, okay? And I say this, and this is all natural, okay? Because what's going to happen, and that's where the interest rates come in, it's going to bring down demand, which is going to allow other things to happen, like prices to come down a little bit. You're not going to see like this huge decline in price like people were talking about, oh, is this '08 again? No.
20% decline.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen at all. But you are going to have to see, like you said, everything catch back up.
Right.
Wages catch back up. Building catch back up. All this catch back up in order for the supply and demand curves to match again.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. That's the process. And it's all a cycle. And we're just kind of coming into that piece where the rising interest rates are going to start to bring down demand a little bit. Not prices, I don't think, but demand a little bit. And then you'll kind of see things start. It may take a little, a bit of time, a year, 2 years, but you'll start to see things kind of come back together like we saw a quote unquote normalized real estate market, let's say 10 years ago.
Right. And when you look at kind of some of the natural phenomenons, and you say we're looking to do this, we're trying to get this. It's not, and very little of this is really an individual being able to put pressure on something to make it happen. It's just a natural course of the economy and letting it work its way out in a cycle. Now it can be sped up or slowed down, but it's going to happen regardless. You look at the Pacific, from basically Southern California, even all the way up to Seattle and everywhere in between, where for decades, 10, 20 years, housing affordability has been like atrocious. Those areas are seeing the biggest change or the biggest demand destruction in their market, which is causing the price points to move. It's still not awful, but at a faster rate in the downward motion because they've been so inflated for so long. I was looking at some graphs earlier today, and the thought was, okay, with this we're going to see massive price decreasing over nationwide. They were talking of 10-15% early on when rates went up to 7%. It didn't happen. Right now, nationwide, all in, everything from the peak of where things were to where things are now, there has been right at a 2% decrease in value across the nation. Whereas, and then that's, you spread that out over different markets. Obviously, real estate's local. You look at the market that we're in the Southeast, and we've actually continued appreciation. We have not seen price decreasing. We have seen prices increasing, but at a far lower rate. Charlotte, month over month, this is the closest metro market to us that is calculated, saw a 0.2% increase from December to January. That's the latest data that we have. You're seeing that all across, in various different pockets. Our areas is probably a little bit higher than that, just because of the influx, and we didn't see major moves. But all of that being said, all of that noise, all of the reasons of what's going on in the economy, it's important to know. It's super important to know and to recognize where you are, because you don't want to make decisions without being based in reality. But at the end of the day, what we do as agents is about the things that we can control. Mm-hmm. How do we do what do we do to navigate this market and control the things that we can control and still see our business survive, more importantly, thrive in today's market?
I think everything we've talked about is on a macro level. Even when you talk about local real estate, when you look at things on a larger trend line, you can go out. So looking at real estate nationally, you can look at your local market if you base it on a larger trend line. Mm-hmm. So if you see appreciation declining, then there may be some areas that prices are declining. There may be places where prices are going up, but at the end of the day, the trend line is all kind of going in that direction. So you got to understand, we're looking at things from a macro level. Going back to your question, what can we do? Well, if you're doing the right things now and you were doing the right things before, you do the right things going forward. I don't think you do a whole lot of different stuff based on the stuff that the economic environment and weather that we have going on right now.
True. However, in the past 24 to 36 months, there were a number of agents who entered our business and did really well. And they did really well because anybody could have done really well in our markets. Mm-hmm. And they thought they were doing the right things, and they thought they had all their systems dialed in because they were making good money. And they were making good money because anybody could make good money in a market that is shooting to the moon. Mm-hmm. Now that the market's not shooting to the moon, how do we self-identify and say, okay, the market has shifted. Maybe what made me successful 2 years ago is not going to make me successful now. Or maybe I need to relook at my activities that I'm doing to make sure I'm honing in on those. And that's where, it's super important to lean in and talk to people who have had experience in different markets. Because at the end of the day, this is a very simple business. Mm-hmm. But if you've never been taught and you don't have a strategy to navigate it, it can seem like an insurmountable mountain that oh my gosh, how am I going to make any money? I don't have anything on the table. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to get out of the business. No, you don't. You just need to adjust a little bit of your activities.
Have a strategy.
Have a strategy.
So many people over the last, let's call it 3 to 5 years, had no strategy. I mean, you could literally talk to somebody on the street corner and they're either looking to buy or sell a house, or they know somebody that does. So it was really easy from that standpoint. Now you have to have a strategy, especially if you want to pick up market share during this time. So strategies come into play better usually when markets are shifting. So kind of like now, for example, an expired listing strategy. That's going to be a good time to use that is when you're seeing listings stay on the market longer. If it's more of a buyer's market, or even right now, if it's a situation where there's so many listing agents that they're willing to do anything to get a listing, so they'll price it at a point that's way outside the market.
Right.
guess what? It's going to sit on the market longer. So you can use that strategy to come in and educate this seller on, hey, you need to be priced at this point. For sale by owners, doing for sale by owners, picking up listings that way. You know, good times to use that is when you start to see more listings coming on the market. Because the reason people decide they're going to sell on their own, they don't want to pay the commission, is when, hey, there's tons of buyers out there. I don't really have to do anything. It's going to sell itself. But eventually that levels out, kind of like what we're going to probably be seeing coming shortly. So these are some of the strategies you can use, and you need to have some kind of strategy in your business to be able to pick up more business along the way.
Absolutely. Strategies are super important. And one of the easiest strategies, I don't want to say easiest, probably very difficult because it's so saturated. But one of the strategies that so many agents gravitate to is social media. And a social media strategy is not surfing on social media 7 to 8 hours a day and posting a couple of things here and there. It's a lot more in depth than that, and it's a lot more calculated than that. And for so many people, they thought they had a social media strategy. When they didn't, they were just playing on Facebook and Instagram. Mm-hmm. And playing on Facebook and Instagram is not a strategy. There has to be reasons why you do something. There's got to be a plan to get there. And I'm not downing it. I just want to make sure that those that are not that their social media strategy is their sole strategy of sales, is if your business is not where it once was, maybe you need to look and say, A, am I executing on my strategy well? Or B, do I need to add a different strategy to the mix? It's super important in a time when things are changing. If your business is changing or has changed in the last 6 months, the first place you look is at yourself. Mm-hmm. Do not look at external factors and blame someone, something, some economy for your business's failures or your business's declines. It's you. You're in control of what you do every single day. You're in control of your activities. And if you can't first look inward to determine if what you're doing is working or not working, you are doomed to fail every time.
Yeah, you always have to be able to pivot or adjust whenever the market adjusts. You know, we're all business owners out there, and that's what good business owners, good CEOs do, is they adjust when the market adjusts. Going back to what you were saying about social media is a great example of how basically anybody could find business, find a lead out there because there was so much. Now, as Warren Buffett says, when the tide comes in, you can always see the people who are skinny dipping. No doubt. Okay? So I'm not saying that social media is a bad place to market, advertise, do your business, but you have to be dedicated to it. And like you said, the people who weren't, who just thought, hey, this is a great way to do it, they're the ones that are struggling now, and they're the ones that need to figure out, hey, am I going to go all in on this, or am I going to switch up and do some other strategies?
Absolutely. And, along those same ways, and, I want to key on in this and have a conversation around it. As the market adjusts, if your business has adjusted, if your business has declined, do me a favor. Do not look at social media and compare yourselves to the other agents that are in the market via social media. It's not true. What you see on social media that your other folks are doing, 90% of the time is fabricated. Make your decisions based on true data. Look and see what other people are doing. You can get that information by just doing a little bit of a search that is not on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Do an actual search of what they're doing. If you want to see what someone's really doing and compare yourself, that's fine. That's not a problem. That's getting good information of where the market is. but I just encourage people not to compare themselves to others via social media.
Yeah, and that's kind of what social media is out there for. Is how can I get out there and get people to perceive me in a certain way? And it's a good strategy to have for a little bit, but at the same time, people have to understand that perception is not necessarily reality all the time. So it's just good to know that.
Absolutely. We're not going to end this on a negative note. The market is the market. Mm-hmm. The market's going to change. The market's going to adjust. You hit the nail on the head. Those that have a strategy and have everything together and are looking at their business on a monthly, quarterly basis, are we doing the right things? When the tide goes out, you're going to find out that they've got a bathing suit on, they've got sunscreen on, and they're ready to go. And you're going to find that those that don't have a strategy are sitting out there with no clothes on, with no sunscreen on, are going to get burnt to a crisp. And it's important for you to make sure that you hone in on your strategies and you have everything nailed down for the next little bit, because it is going to be a channeling. That was the one where we keyed on. It's going to be a channel of interest rates. It's going to be a channel of supply and demand. It's going to be an upward and downward motion for the next little bit. It's not going to be in one straight shot up. It's not going to be in a straight shot down. It's how you navigate that channel over the next 12 to 18 months is going to show your survivability.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing out of here is figure out what you want to do, pick your strategy, and dedicate yourself to it. Master it. Make that's going to be where my business is. That's who I am going forward. Because those that are going to make it in this upcoming market are going to be the ones that are dedicated to a certain area, because they're not going to be jumping around doing a bunch of different things, seeing, oh, well, this works over here today and that works over here tomorrow. They're going to master their craft, and they're going to be the best.
Absolutely. And for those of you that we talked at a high level about strategy, we didn't really go granular of what some of them are. If you have questions or want to chat through maybe what could a strategy that you could implement, feel free to reach out to us. We are working daily with a number of agents to help them really nail down their strategy, and can help you and figure out the best way to help grow your business. But we appreciate you guys listening in, and until next time, we will talk to you soon.
See you.